Hey there everyone, welcome to my take on the Elden Ring one-shot challenge. I wanted to get this out and started, and I am still working on the Souls Level 1 Dark Souls 3 challenge, but I wanted to get something else out to you guys until I can get around to finishing that challenge. After seeing the well-known Elden Ring YouTuber Bushy do this challenge, I kind of wanted to take my own crack at it, because it looked fun, as weird as that sounds. So, here are the rules that I applied. 1. I must take down the boss's health with one button press. That means one heavy attack, one charged weapon art, one charged spell. Doesn't matter as long as it's one button press. But I can't perpetually hold it like a Common Azure spell. Rule number 2. If the boss has multiple health bars, I can do multiple attacks as long as it's one attack per boss health bar. As of right now, that's pretty basic, but with Godskin's Duo, I'm not sure how to handle that one, but we'll see later on. Number 3, I will be using and taking advantage of ruin farms. So at the beginning, I'll be using the Dragon Burrow farm, and then when it becomes available to me, Mog's Palace is where I will farm the majority of my runes when it becomes available. And rule number 4, I must kill all bosses in Elden Ring and the DLC. For right now, those are the rules. But if you want to see how bad this gets for me and how much fun I actually have with this, please like and subscribe, and let's get this show underway. To start the run, I named my character a very sophisticated name, and chose the Confessor class to give myself access to early game buffs and higher strength without needing to level them too much. I spawn in and quickly ditch the unneeded gear, and make my way to the Grafted Scion fight, quickly jumping off a cliff to the left and getting into the real game. After waking up and getting to the first steps, I quickly ran up to the first church with Kale, or Kale. Is it Kale? I think it's Kale. Got the Grace, made my way to Stormfront, and got both the Stormfront Gate Grace and the North Aguil Lake Grace. From there, I got access to Torrent, which was my main catalyst to get around the map quickly to get all the resources I needed. My first stop is to go down into the Stormfront Ruins basement to grab the Whetstone. While this doesn't have any infusions that I really want, it is nice to have. Next, I go up the hill to grab both the Strength tier to increase my Strength stat by 10 and the Golden Bough Ash of War to increase my damage by 15%. I teleport back to the North Lake Grace and head south to pick up the 10 mushrooms that Bach gives you and the main Ash of War that I'm going to be using until I can get through Volcano Manor, which is Determination, which adds another additional 60% damage to my next hit. My next stop was to go down even further south to grab the Physic and then head to the hill just north of it to grab the Sacred Blade Ash of War for later against Holy Weak enemies. I head back down the hill and gain access to Dragon's Burrow through the teleporter by the church. After gaining access to the Church of Garank, I go past the Blackblade Kindred and go down to the graveyard outside of Lenny's Ruin and start using it for a rune farm. Melania makes a return and helps me get into the Round Table Hold. I don't stay here long as I travel back to Stormhill Shack and the church that Kale is at to get both the jellyfish and the summoning bell. I won't be using the summoning bell except for later to return the jellyfish and the Albinauric to where they are in the late game. I return to the third church of Margit and make my way up to the minor Earth tree to get the spiked cracky tier. Spiky cracked tier. Good lord. And then head down to the ruins to get a hold of the axe talisman for later. And then I proceed to Fort Height to get a hold of Bloody Slash and the first half of the Dectus Medallion. After clearing out Fort Height, I head back down to Dragon's Burrow and head into Fort Farah to claim the second half of the Dectus Medallion and Radagon's Sword Seal. I really only use this for the first little bit of running around. After getting that, instead of rushing up to Altus Plateau, I took a trip down south, getting the Church of the Plague for later, and then head further down south into Redmane Castle. I wanted to get here before going up to Altus Plateau so that I could get my hands on the red hot whetstone, giving me access to fire, but more importantly, the fire art infusion. Once I had the whetstone in my possession, I made my way south from Dragon's Burrow and down to Fort Gale to grab Flame Grant Me Strength. From here, I could finally return from the red skies of the Florida lands into Limgrave, before I have to head north into more swampland. Fun. On the bright side, no more Scarlet Rot. My goal here was to progress towards Altus Plateau and also obtain upgrade materials along the way. After grabbing my upgrade materials, I go grab the Academy key to gain access for later. Once I get to the grace inside the Academy, I make my way up to Altus Plateau, and arriving there, I head to Capital Outskirts to grab my seal, which is the Golden Order seal, and the very first weapon of the run, which is the Giant Crusher. Once I had my weapon, I return to the Round Table Hold, acquire the dagger and a stone sword key. Once done there, I head to Fort Feroth Grace and put Bloody Slash on my short sword to kill Grail, obtaining ruins to get me up to almost 100k using the Golden Foulfoot. This allowed me to level my strength up to 30, my faith to 17, and my endurance to 14. With this stat spread, this allows me to wield my seal, two-hand the Giant Crusher with the strength tier, and also be able to carry it all at once. After putting Flame Art onto the Giant Crusher, I make my way back to Limgrave to go on a little bit of a shopping trip. I grab the crafting kit off of Challange, I head down to the merchant by the coastal cave to pick up poison bulbuses, and then head into the cave to grab the grace there. I then head back to the lake and head down to the Weeping Peninsula. My goal down here is to grab both of the churches, but also go down to the merchant that is on the southwest end of the peninsula. I get to him and I grab the lantern and two stone sword keys that he has with him. I plan to return to him for later, for he has the infinite stack of arrows that I'm going to use when I get to Moog's Palace. I also make a small detour back to the merchant on the beach to pick up the cookbook for the poison bulbuses. I head back up to Altus Plateau and head into the sealed tunnel, running in and grabbing the smithing stone bell 2. I cannot say that to save the life of me. And quickly dip out again, planning to return back later for the boss. I spend the next little bit running through Liurnia, grabbing the free smithing stones 2 and 3s that are lying around, and then I return to Limgrave Tunnels to pick up the smithing stones 1s that I need to upgrade the Giant Crusher. From here I head back to Lenny's Rise and Dragon's Barrow, and begin the agonizing process of farming runes. I will come here multiple times, I just don't plan to show all the times that I do, but know that it is pretty often. And while I did farm for a little bit, I didn't get enough for upgrade materials and upgrade levels I needed. But I decided that instead of rune farming over and over and over again and going mindlessly numb from it, that I would start testing just how effective the build was. I returned to the church that had Calais and head to the Groveside Cave. The Beastman of Fair Missoula doesn't have a lot of health, but this would give me the first taste of how the buffing routine would go from here on out. Got it. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Okay, so maybe the Beastman was a little too easy. What about a duo boss? I return to the coastal cave once more to attempt the first duo boss of the run. Bang. Bang. Got it. Yeah, okay, never mind. These fodder bosses were not hard to handle, but that was some pretty easy bosses. What about some of the stronger ones? I rune farmed just a little more to get my Giant Crusher up to +9. Once it's upgraded, I head down to the Weeping Peninsula and into the Morn Tunnel. I do my buffs and kill the Scaly Misbegotten with ease, getting access to the second weapon of the run, the Rusted Anchor. I upgrade Giant Crusher to +12 and start on my next objective, which is going to get the buffs and items that I needed to handle those that walk in death. I grab Sacred Order and Golden Epitaph. I knew that if I wanted to upgrade a rusted anchor, I was going to need the smithing stone bell bearing 1. So I returned to Liurnia and make my way through Ray Lucaria's crystal tunnels. I reach the bottom of the tunnel and do my standard buffing. The boss was a Crystallian. With it being weak against strike damage, I wasn't worried about my damage in the slightest. Ah, yes. Fire negation. Yeah, let me just switch that back to normal, and there we go. Now with the bell bearing in my possession, I turn it into the twin husk, and then decide the next target would be the Deathbird in Liurnia. I go to the Boiled Prong Shack and head down south of the shack. I find the Deathbird and yeah, I failed pretty badly with this one. This is the first time that I had to do more than one buff to take on a boss. So I tried to take it on once again, but once again I failed. So from here, I admit that I did get a little scattered brained. I went up to Altus and made my way to Seathwater Terminus, more specifically to the Seathwater Tunnel. My next target instead was to try and get the Kindred of Rot Talisman. Yeah, that definitely didn't go as planned. Looks like I need to get my hands on another talisman. I head to Summon Water Village, attempt to one-shot the Tibia Mariner. Still don't have enough damage for him, considering he is somehow not considered undead. From here, I just bit the bullet and went back to rune farming, as the best weapon to kill the Liurnia Deathbird is the Rusted Anchor. It takes far longer than I would like, but after a bit, I did get my anchor up to 13. Before returning to Liurnia and finally managing to one-shot the Deathbird. Having killed the Deathbird, it gave me access to the Red Feathered Branch Sword, which is the Red Tier Soda Ring of this game. Next, I returned to Seathwater Tunnel and knew that if I wanted a good chance at Margit, I needed the Poison Talisman. And so for the next 20 minutes, I spent it trying to figure out how in the world to one-shot this boss. The trouble wasn't even the boss itself, it's the fact that if I managed to hit the first one, the pest threads would already be on their way if I wasn't fast enough. And that's if I lived the attack from the first one. But then I had a brilliant idea. Perfect. And with more protection now on my character, I was able to one-shot them and get the Poison Talisman. Got it. Now that I had the Poison Talisman in my possession, I wanted to try my hand at Margit just to get an idea of where I stood with him. I went into the arena, got my damage number, which was 771 with the Rusted Anchor. There was a lot of work to be done. And so I got to it. I started back going to Celia and going into the Crystal Cave to go get my hands on Smithing Stone 5s. After clearing that tunnel, I returned to the capital outskirts and run down to Alta's Tunnel, where I continue to pick up the rest of the Smithing Stone 5s I need. Getting the Rusted Anchor up to plus 16, I returned to Margit to get my updated damage number, which came out to be 879. This did better, but it just didn't feel right. And I was right on that feeling. I forgot to take off the Axe Talisman, and I took it off and redid the number. It dropped it down to 799, so there was a lot of work still to be done. And I decided that I needed to make rune farming just a little bit easier so I didn't lose my frickin' sanity. So I headed down to the abandoned cave and made quick work of the Clean Rot Knight duo. Aha! Fuck yeah, dude. This is also around the time that I decided to look into how to make the fetid pots and the poison bulbuses. I started my farming for materials here at the third church of Marika with the boars, and then I went for the dragonfly heads that I found around Agil's Lake, and then the mushrooms coming from the grace south of the lake. But just to clarify, for later reference, after this video, after the events of this video, I did find a better place, which is by the Artist Shack and Limgrave, where I found more golden excrement and dragonfly heads easier to farm. The mushrooms did remain where they were, though. The cave moss was from a bunch of different tunnels, but I did find one later down in Liurnia that was easier to farm than the rest. And then the herba was from the ruins right by EG. I took a few more cracks at Margit, but because at this point I didn't know where to get herba consistently along with the dragonfly heads, I made the decision to pick up Flame Cleanse Me. Spoiler, it did okay, it's just the time it took to cast it took away from the total time that I had with the poison buff. And so the rest of day one was really spent trying to get the one shot on Margit, but with no success. Yes! Alright, we're ending on a win. On day 2, I decided to take a slightly different approach to Margit. I wanted to see if maybe the oil pots would do the trick since I was running a flame art weapon. But that made me run into 2 major issues. 1. I suck at free aiming. I couldn't hit the oil pots. And when I did hit them, it was a direct hit that dealt 1 damage. I got tired of trying to make the oil pots work, so I decided to go do a boss rush to feel out the other bosses. Black Knife Assassin, easy work. Got it.
Dude, that overshot the damage so far.
Stone Golem, needed more damage. Mariner, still needed more damage. Erdtree Avatar, easy.
Hey, opa, there's another one.
Went to go get Hal Shabriri for later. Somehow gave me more trouble than most of the other bosses I've dealt with. Went to the church with Vike. Died to him. Returned the favor. Tried the Erdtree Avatar by the Frenzy Village. I needed more damage. Clean Rot Knight. Easy work.
Bang. And that's going to be useful for a Mariah's Executioner sword later.
I decided to take another route with Margit. I went through the old Altus tunnel and farmed out the last few Smithing Stone 5s I needed to upgrade my Giant Crusher to plus 15, and the base damage was 1021. Now we're getting somewhere. I had an idea of what else to add to it, which was a headshot. This leads to the one boss that I'm kind of worried about. Patches. I know there is a way to one-shot him, but it's past Margit, and at this point, I wasn't sure I was going to get past him without killing Patches for the Shackle. But I can prove that it would have been a one-shot if not for that stupid health gate.
You see what I mean? There's that health gate. Ah, I'll take the loss on that one.
What a shit show.
Go ahead and just say that I failed the run, but I'm going to continue on anyways because it's Patches. That feels like a really dumb just gimmick of a health gate. I get the Shackle and tested the headshot possibility, but I wasn't sure that it actually hit, And so I made a sidetrack up to Volcano Manor. I needed to get my hands on literally 2 more Smithing Stone 6s to be able to get up to plus 16. I made my way up through Volcano Manor and found the 6s that I needed. I went to go test a Geel a little bit with no luck. Then I made my way up to the sealed tunnels once more and got the stones from the statue with the help of the Abductor Virgin, along with some of the miners that dropped some of the 6s to get my giant crusher up to plus 17. And the rest of day 2 was spent attempting Margit again. Day 3. At this point, I was stuck. I had everything I needed to do this. I did some farming off stream and got my strength up from 37 to 49. I was stuck until one of my buddies, Yeeter, hopped into my chat as I was streaming this and probably will continue to stream this at Twitch, and suggested a groundbreaking idea. Just do 3 bloody slashes instead of 4.
Source. Swear to God, if you say trust me, bro. God damn it.
But there's no way that works, right? That is way too simple for that to work. Right? Right?
Don't have much of a better option, do I? Oh! Yeeter, you fucking genius.
I have to now listen to him when he says, source is trust me, bro. Anyways, outside of that, on the bright side, Margit is dead. We now have a new talisman slot, and we also have access to Stormvale Castle. This was just the start of this entire adventure. For my sanity and yours, I'm going to break this up into parts as I progress further into this. I did have a lot of fun with this, actually. This is probably one of my favorite challenge runs that I've actually ever been able to do. While yes, some parts were frustrating, it's really fun to test my knowledge of the game and see what I really do know about it. But for now, that is part 1 of the Elden Ring one-shot challenge. Thank you so much for watching the video, and make sure you do like and subscribe for part 2. But for now, that's all, and I'll see you guys the next time. Later.